Ah, the early 90s action movies. They still had both their feet firmly planted in the 80s, and it's a beautiful thing. Let's get into it. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'd like to talk about a little action thriller from 1991, May of 1991, starring Brian Bosworth. Yes, the Boz. And that movie is Stone Cold. No, not the wrestler, the film, Stone Cold. Brian Bosworth plays Joe Huff, a.k.a. John Stone, in the film. We also have Lance Hendrickson in the film as Chains. He's in charge of this biker gang called the Brotherhood. And the great William Forsythe is in this movie as Ice, his right-hand man, or his #1 enforcer. And this movie had a little bit of a trouble production from what I can see. Brian Bosworth did a screening of this at the Alamo Draft House in Austin, Texas several years ago. And he said when they started production, they started with a different director. That director had some issues, didn't go into details, and the producers ended up firing him. And they brought in Craig R. Baxley. Craig R. Baxley, up to that point, was doing stunt work, second unit shooting. And then he also had done the movie Action Jackson with Carl Weathers. It's a cool little action film. If you've never seen it, I recommend checking that out. Obviously, he came in to do this film. And then he went on, after this film, he went on to do a movie called Dark Angel. That's what it's known as now. But back then, I remember on TV as I Come in Peace with Dolph Lundgren. And then later on, he went on and do Storm of the Century and some other TV work. But in this film, Lance Hendrickson's in charge of this biker gang called the Brotherhood. And they kind of have their own compound in Mississippi. This film was actually filmed in Alabama, Mississippi, and Arkansas. And at the beginning of the film, we're introduced... Well, we see the supermarket, and these guys come in with guns and take hostages and take the place over. Brian Bos, it's kind of like right out of Cobra, at the beginning of this. Only, you know, it kind of is very similar. Only, Brian Bosworth just happens to be there like he was shopping. He's pushing in the shopping cart, they show him, and then he ends up taking out the bad guys. But we find out that he's on suspension. Fast forward, one of the Brotherhood gets convicted in a Mississippi court, and they kill this priest. The guy kills this priest. He goes to trial. They put him away for a long time. The Brotherhood retaliates by killing the judge. They blow him up. He's going fishing on his boat, and when he starts the boat, it blows up. So the FBI get in contact with Joe Huff, Brian Bosworth's character, and they ask him to come in to play a biker undercover because they want to take out this biker gang because they're killing people and they're selling drugs, and they're kind of acting like the mafia in these towns around where their compound is. He reluctantly agrees, and he kind of makes contact with these bikers, and they kind of invite him to their compound, and they're kind of having these games, and this is so over the top, balls out, testosterone, crazy bullshit. These guys are on this like little beach, and they're putting beer cans on their shoulders and they're shooting them off with a gun at each other. I'm like, that is effing insane, but it's a cool little scene. It's total bullshit, but it's a cool little scene. And then Brian Bosworth kind of gets in with Lance Hendrickson, who's, like I said, again, is in charge of the Brotherhood. And to prove himself, they have him do a few things. And they start trusting him a little bit, even though he's a cop. Nobody knows it yet. But the Brotherhood is continuing going around and doing these violent things and killing people. And they want to kill this attorney general who wants to start giving his guys the death penalty, who's running for governor. And their major plot is to take over the Capitol, or this courthouse, and kill this guy, kill all the judges. And that's pretty much their main plan in this movie. And there's some really cool action scenes. There's a cool chase with William Forsythe and Brian Bosworth on motorcycles through this town, because William Forsythe figures out that Brian Bosworth's a cop. And William Forsythe runs straight on into a car. He doesn't see it, and he collides with this car straight on, going really fast. And they show it. It's a pretty well shot and violent scene. And all the action scenes are well shot, no doubt. But this movie really is kind of like a grindhouse. Like, this would have been like a grindhouse movie back in the 70s. Definitely just with a little bit of a bigger budget, better production value. And at the end of the movie, we have they raid the courthouse, and there's some over-the-top shit, like Brian Bosworth jumps out of his helicopter through a window onto this marble flooring, doesn't hurt himself, and just keeps killing people. It's a cool scene, but you watch that and it's like, it's kind of weird. Like what they're going for seems a little conflicting. Like they're so serious in some scenes, and then they do something like that, and it's like, well, there's no effing way he wouldn't have broke his leg doing that shit. And then there's a scene, it looks awesome, but they're in the courthouse on their motorcycle. They have taken the courthouse over. And this is after Lance Henriksen's already gaslit the judges and killed the senator or attorney general that wants to be governor. And Brian Bosworth kills this guy on the motorcycle, and the motorcycle keeps going. He steps out of the way, goes through the glass and into the helicopter and blows it up. It looks awesome, but it's so crazy ridiculousness, but it's cool. It's cool. I mean, you can have a lot of fun with this movie. Brian Bosworth's actually pretty good. I know it sounds laughable. I remember back when this film was made, and I wasn't that old. I was only 12 when this movie came out, but people thought a football player, I don't know how long did it for some movies, but to have a whole action movie around Brian Bosworth, but he does okay with it. And with Lance Henriksen and William Forsythe in there, it really sells it, because Lance Henriksen's really, he makes for a great bad guy, and William Forsythe is great as his #1 enforcer, and you can tell they're having fun playing off each other. And the surrounding actors do well. They keep the plot moving forward. The movie's only like 91 minutes long. It's a fast watch, and there's enough action to keep your interest. It never drags. Yes, there are some what the hell was that moments, some over-the-top moments that feel a little out of place considering they're taking the material so seriously. But Brian Bosworth was effective in this movie. It's unfortunate the movie didn't do that well. It was made on a $17 million budget, and it only made $9 million. I think it caught on a little bit in video. I know you can get a Blu-ray. There's a Blu-ray you can buy. Amazon has it. That's how I got it a couple years ago. But I would give this movie, I would give it a 7 out of 10. I enjoy it enough to give it that. It's not a perfect movie by any stretch of the imagination. I just think it's a fun R-rated action film with some over-the-top moments. It's well filmed. The actors do pretty damn good. And yes, it's definitely a B-grade movie, but it's fun as hell. And if you've never seen it, I'd suggest checking it out if you could track it down. I'm sure you can get it on Amazon Prime or wherever your streaming device whatever streaming service you use. I'm sure they have it. But yeah, I'd recommend Stone Cold. It's definitely cool. I know it sounds, Brian Bosworth, but no, he's good in the movie. He's good enough. No, he's not Stallone or Schwarzenegger, but he's good enough. And the movie, and with the actors they put around him, it all clicks and it works. Again, I know there's some over-the-top moments, and it might take some people out of the movie, but if you just go with it, you'll have a good time. So yeah, I recommend Stone Cold. I give it a 7 out of 10. And that's it for me. I will be back with a review of Frailty, which is an awesome little horror movie directed by the great Bill Paxton, later in the week. And I hope you all have a kick-ass day, and I'll see you soon. Thanks.